Welcome everyone to this evening's Faversham Town Council planning meeting. Firstly, can I welcome Josh Wilson and Jason Chandler from George Wilson Developments Limited and OSG Architecture, who will brief the meeting on a proposal for the land adjacent to the Eurocentre Business Park. Thank you, gentlemen, if you're ready.
No problem at all. Thank you. Is it possible to get that presentation up on the screen?
Oh, please don't ask me. No technology whatsoever. I think Deputy Town Clerk, are you able to do that?
I'll just try. Have you got it handy? Because I've shared the screen, Josh.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, well, can everyone see it?
End.
I mean, I've got it in paper form here, but can everyone see it?
No.
Not yet.
No.
Perhaps it's not going to work, is it?
Josh, would you like me to have a go?
Can you share your screen?
Hang on. I think Adrian's nearly there.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's brilliant.
I can't actually see it my end though, so I'm not sure how we're going to move through.
Right.
Okay. I mean, that might work as it is, to be fair.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, guys. We're George Wilson Developments. We're the developer behind quite a few business parks and commercial and small-scale residential schemes in East Kent. We're also the ones that built the Eurocentre development in Faversham and also the refurbishment and renovation of the Good Shed, which also sits on that site as well. If we could just scroll down, if that's okay. So this is just a bit about us. We built as a 4 million square foot commercial space around Kent. In terms of residential, most recently we've just done the Savoy project on Whitstable seafront. You may have seen it. And in the past we've done developments like Linen Court in Canterbury City Centre. If we can just scroll down, please. So the site that we're talking about today, it's a 1.8 acre site between Station Road and the existing Eurocentre business park. It's in the Swell Borough Council local plan. It's an unallocated inner urban brownfield site. And as you know where it is, it's obviously very, very sustainable. It's within a very short walking distance of the Faversham train station, the bus stop, 6-minute walk of the high street, and ultimately a very short drive from the M2. We can scroll down, please. So this is just a bit about the history of the site. Now, we can obviously, I can circulate this after the presentation, but in the 1960s, land to the south of the railway line became more developed for residential purposes. In the 70s, historic images demonstrate that the proportion of the railway line that ran to the north ceased to be used in the 1970s. This has since been used as part of the ongoing redevelopment of the Eurocentre. And ultimately in the 2000s, the land to the east, which was the old Hunter Sapphire site, was developed by us and Fairview Homes, who developed the residential. We can just scroll down, please. So planning history. So we bought the site in 2018, and in 2019, in May 2019, we got planning permission for the erection of 3 two-storey blocks comprising of 9 small business units that had B1, B2, and B8 use with associated car parking. I think it was about 95 spaces were consented. Service access, landscaping, and access roadway. Now the consent, as you can see from the master plan below, we were proposing a single, a two-way in and out. You'd come in through the Eurocentre and then out via Station Road. So that would obviously have brought the commercial traffic through the site. And as I'm hoping to explain shortly, is one of the reasons why hopefully our residential application will be more beneficial to the residents of Beaumont Terrace and Preston Malthouse, as you'll see shortly. If you just scroll down. So why are we looking for a change of use on the site? So as I said, we still own a large proportion of the Eurocentre industrial estate. We actually we do all the maintenance and a large amount of agency on the site. And in March 2020, Simply Scuba Limited, who used to occupy 5 Jubilee Way, went into liquidation, leaving 24,000 square foot of empty space. In addition to that, there's been a large amount of office occupiers who have basically looked to downgrade the current amount of space they have. Obviously, as you can see here, we're all working from home. Office space is not an amazing market to be in at the minute, even to industrial to an extent. So what we're doing is, rather than sit on the site and just wait, we're looking for an alternative use for the site, a use that can be brought forward as quickly as possible. So that's the rationale. If we could just scroll down, please. So to the right there, that's a picture of the site as it currently looks. In terms of a planning perspective, you've got the constraints there. It's in a conservation area. A very small part of the site in the centre forms part of flood zone 3. It's obviously adjacent to a railway line, so we have a noise impact. And with what we're proposing here, there is a single entrance point, which is on Station Road. So we're not proposing to connect the site to the Eurocentre industrial estate as we were with the previous application. Can we scroll down, please? So what are we proposing? So these CGIs we've had done by Jason here, and he's on hand if you have any points on the architecture. But we're ultimately proposing to create development of 45 apartments split between 1 and 2 bedroom properties. The 45 apartments are split over 7 buildings, the highest of which are on the eastern side of the site, which is 3 stories. And the lowest there's some 2 stories and one. There's two of the buildings are single story. We're proposing 1-to-1 parking spaces. We're proposing 1-to-1 vehicle charging points for the site. So what's 1 unit per point. 1-to-1 cycle spaces to residential unit. Full policy compliant 35% affordable housing. The tenure will be obviously agreed with Swale Borough Council with whatever proportion they require at the time. I think at the minute they need a more affordable rent than shared ownership. That's fine. We're obviously going to be unlocking a lot of the land for formal and informal landscaped areas. We've had a indicative biodiversity net gain assessment done, and it creates a significant net gain. And ultimately, the road we're proposing to be privately maintained through the residents via like a management company. And one of the key benefits of this application is we're also proposing to create a new access in the northeastern part of the site to the recreation ground. And the reason why this is significant is that those that are on the Eurocentre industrial estate at the moment will be able to have a quicker route to the station through our site, and those that are in the recreation ground as well. And we think it will cut journey times by about 6 minutes. So it's so that's one of the major benefits of our application. If we scroll down, please. So this is the master plan for the site. Now, I sent an earlier master plan to a couple of the local ward councillors for Abbey Ward, and they'll notice that it's changed slightly, and I'll go on to reasons why that shortly. But most notably, in the western end of the site, we previously had a plan for a 2-story building. The residents weren't happy about it. The Swale Borough Council in our pre-app weren't happy about it. So we're now showing just a single story, 2 1-unit dwellings. And that'll be quite attractive for the market, we think, because particularly for like if we give them to affordable housing, they'll obviously be very accessible for people that have particular disability needs. Then to the eastern end of the site, that's where the 2 big rectangular blocks are 15 units each. They go up to 3 stories, and the building to the kind of western end of those 2 blocks, that's 3 stories, and the others are 2 and 1 stories. If we scroll down, please. Consultation responses. So we had a pre-app with Swale Borough Council, which was held on the 15th of January. And I've just listed some feedback here and what we've done. So in our original plan to them, we proposed to put a 200-metre long acoustic fence along the railway line. We'd have had to do that with Network Rail's consent, but we we spoke to, we passed it through Swell first, and they didn't want it. They said that it would make a detrimental impact to the character of the area. So we've abandoned that, and we're not looking to do that anymore. What we're looking to do is we're going to have a separate noise assessment done with our planning application, but incorporate noise dampening elements in the actual design of the building itself. So that's how we're proposing to mitigate that. They were concerned about what materials we'll use. Well, hopefully, as I'm sure some of you, if not all of you, hopefully agree that the development at Eurocentre turned out quite well with the yellow brick. We'll be looking to do something very similar here, locally stocked if we can. It's all about availability, but we're looking to do a yellow stock brick, contrast red brick detailing around the windows, and then a high quality kind of aluminium coated window. You'll see in the CGIs as well what we're kind of looking at. The council said that they were comfortable with 3 stories in the eastern end of the site, but any higher would have a detrimental impact, which is why we've not gone for any more. And then the requests that they made were a separate sunlight and daylight assessment because of the proximity to the trees at the recreation ground, a noise assessment, an air quality assessment, and a contamination assessment, which is all completely fine, will be submitted as part of the planning application. We've also had a separate pre-app with KCC Highways, and that was held on the 4th of March 2021. What we proposed in that meeting was an access and egress via a T-junction at Station Road between our site, and their response is that it was generally acceptable, but they would look for a plain vehicular access rather than a raised table. They'd also look for internal traffic calming measures. As you can see from the master plan, the eastern end of the site to the western end of the site, there's quite a long stretch of open road. They're looking for some calming measures there, which we're fine with. They'd also request a labelling of the pedestrian and cycle access from the east end of the site, and a pedestrian footway continuously throughout the site. As I mentioned earlier, from the northeastern corner where we're going to put this new access to the recreation ground, to the end where we are, where pedestrians will be walking to the station. Network Rail, we've submitted our plans to Network Rail. We're waiting to hear back. We should be hearing back shortly, I'm sure, but we haven't heard anything from them just yet. Could we scroll down, please? And finally, local residents. So we did approximately 100. We dropped approximately 150 houses on Beaumont Terrace, Preston Malthouse, St Mary's Road, Chapel Street, Park Road, some of Solomon's Lane and Station Road. Now, what we gave them was a detailed letter of what we were looking to do, an explanation, and a master plan. Although, as I said earlier, the master plan has since changed because we've made a lot of changes to it. Now, since we issued that letter, there's been a number of residents that have got in touch requesting on-site meetings, which we're happy to do, socially distanced. We've had 2 of those meetings, which were, I think, about maybe 8 or 9 per meeting attended. And the feedback from this and the letters that we've received are as follows. Concerns over the current diseased trees and scruffy landscaping on our site. This is particularly on the western end, backing onto Beaumont Terrace and Preston Malthouse. We are proposing to submit a tree survey and a landscape strategy with our proposals. And what we said to them is that providing that the trees aren't listed, we're happy to replace them with more healthier, acceptable trees for the landscaping. I would say that 90% of feedback has been that residential in this location is far more preferable, particularly in terms of vehicular movements. It's going to be a lot less vehicular movements than it was with a commercial scheme. There won't be any HGVs, for example. And ultimately, the air quality benefits as a result of this is quite attractive to the residents that were there. There were concerns over the site being too dense. We don't think the site is very dense at all. We've looking at other allocated apartment-led sites in the Swell Borough Council local plan were significantly less dense. I can go through these if anyone requires. 2-story homes in the western end of the site could cause overlooking. Well, we addressed that. We're just looking for a single story. And finally, housing types not suitable for larger families, which we largely agree with, but we believe that there is a lot of housing, the family style housing going up in Faversham at the minute. And what we are looking to provide here is something for a different market, maybe younger audience, maybe commuting to, maybe working in Faversham or commuting to Canterbury or London. And it's that kind of market that we're trying to target. We're not trying to target big families. Thank you. Can you scroll down, please?
Starter homes.
So moving forward, so what are we looking like from as we sit here today? Well, subject to any further comments that we receive, we're ultimately trying to submit an application by April, the end of April, end of this month, with a target start date on site of October 2021. Then we've assumed an 18-month build. I mean, we're hoping to do this a lot quicker if we can get planning permission. But then ultimately the residents moving in 2023. Could we scroll down, please? So just to summarise then, thank you for listening to me. This is ultimately a brownfield site in a highly sustainable location which can be utilised to meet the housing need in the borough. It's brought forward by a local developer with a track record for delivery in Faversham and East Kent and a local award-winning architect. Steve Davis, who's also our planning consultant, on the call as well, who's available if you have any questions from a policy perspective. And also we've got Jason, who's our architect. But that's all from me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, George. I don't know if Jason would like to come in at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here to answer any questions you might have, but just to give you a quick overview of the kind of approach we've taken in terms of the design. We obviously had our pre-application meeting with Swale Borough Council, and whilst we knew the site and the area very well, they did highlight concerns about making sure that anything we did was kind of in keeping architecturally with some of the listed buildings that are in close proximity to the site. And I mean, specifically, we've tried to take some kind of design cues from the water tower that's on the corner of Station Road, and the goods sheds that Josh mentioned has already been converted historically further down Jubilee Way. And obviously, because of the proximity to the railway line, we've felt that trying to take a bit of that sort of semi kind of Victorian industrial aesthetic of the railway buildings, and specifically the detailing from some of those historic buildings, and drawn that through the whole scheme. And that's kind of another reason why we felt that the mass of an apartment block scheme actually works well and complements other buildings in this situation. And we can use those kind of proportions of that kind of larger building to still give us that kind of feel of the blocks that already exist around the site. We've obviously taken those cues of the yellow bricks, the red brick arches, stepping the facade in and out. And we've also kind of tried to introduce a couple of more modern elements on the higher top stories that kind of reflect a bit of the idea of the metal box on top of the water tower that's at the top of St Mary's Road there. So architecturally, the whole concept ties in with the sort of advice that we've been given by the conservation officer at Swale, as well as from our own kind of studies of the area as well.
Thank you.
That covers most of it, really.
Yeah, I think so. Any councillors that would like to ask a question? Councillor Perkin.
Yeah, thanks both for a really interesting presentation. I've been speaking to, so I'm an Abbey Ward councillor, and I've been speaking to a couple of the residents that live in kind of Beaumont Terrace and Preston Malthouse. And they've got a couple of concerns. First of all, obviously the side of the road is quite close to the back of Preston Malthouses, and I know you've spoken to them about trees and things, but I just wondered whether you had any kind of opinions on how much the vegetation there adds to the structural integrity of that bank itself, because it's quite it was a concern that if those trees are diseased and removed, then what kind of keeps that together? Because it's only about a metre, isn't it, between that and the size of the malt house. And I think secondly, there's some concern around kind of car access, which I think you've obviously gone out to KCC, because I know when you were looking at it being industrial, they had some concerns about that access route. But is there enough passing space to get kind of one car going one way and one car coming the other way in that kind of small section there? So I just wondered whether you had the answers to those questions, please.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, working from the last question back, certainly the road width is 4.8 metres, which is the same width that you'd have down any residential street that allows two cars to pass one another. I mean, which is obviously an improvement on where we were previously, because there won't be heavy goods vehicles traversing that really once everything's built, like there would have been previously. But so the size of traffic will be smaller, but the road width is just the right amount for a smallish residential street that allows cars to pass. What we won't have is any parking on that strip. So, but we've made plenty of account for that within the site because we're compliant with the standards that we've been asked to provide. In terms of the bank, I have to say that's kind of, we're still kind of investigating that with our landscape architects. I think Josh might be able to say a little bit more about that.
Absolutely, yeah. So what we've basically said is the parking that's on the other side of the road, one of the concerns that the residents made was, okay, well, if someone's reversing out, what happens if they reverse too far and they go down, hit one of the houses? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to put in bollards, traffic safe bollards in to prevent that happening. And then we'll put some form of hedging to prevent, so it's a clear boundary, if you get what I mean. So it can be kind of mistaken. But in terms of the trees, I think that I do get the point, to be fair, that they make, is that the trees currently, they're not of any kind of quality, and they are diseased, and they're actually quite overbearing on the properties. And I met a few residents who said that, well, particularly because some of their bedrooms look onto the rear, they can't get any sunlight because these big trees are hanging over. So, I mean, ultimately, as long as we put some safe measures in to prevent cars from traveling down there, ultimately, I think that by us re-landscaping, it's ultimately going to be a benefit from everyone on the road.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I just have one more small question, sorry, and then I will stop talking. You said that there would be a percentage gain in biodiversity. Do you know what percentage that is? Because obviously with the neighbourhood plan, I think we're looking at 20%.
Yeah, being brutally honest, it can't be 20% because so I had this chat with my biodiversity consultant earlier, and he said that it would honestly be nearly physically impossible for us to get 20%. Where he's looking at the minute, we're looking at about 2%, 3%, but that's with us doing everything possible we can to get there. But I'd love to sit in front of you and say it's 20%, no problem. But honestly, he used a very good example. He said if you look at some of the major strategic schemes on the outskirts of Swale, they'll be getting 20% because what they're doing is they're creating vast open spaces of ecology zones and wildlife corridors. We can't do that in this kind of site. It's quite constrained. But if there's a way of making it better, we're open to it. We want to help, if you get what I mean.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Councillor Saunders.
Thank you. Apologies, I missed the start of your presentation. I wanted to ask about the position for pedestrians and also for cyclists. My understanding, which might be wrong, was that the original proposal would have allowed pedestrians through access from Station Road into the Jubilee Way estate. In what you've been describing, it sounds as though that is lost, and I wasn't too clear what the route for a pedestrian from Station Road through to the Jubilee Way estate would be now. The other thing was in terms of there's walking access, but obviously we're keen to encourage other forms of active travel as well, particularly cycling. And at the moment, it's quite problematic to cycle from the station through to Jubilee Way. And I wasn't clear that was going to be resolved by this application. So some comments on that would be great.
No problems, Jason. Sorry. So yeah, we want it to be the pedestrian access will be both cyclist friendly and obviously pedestrian friendly. So does it connect into the Eurocentre industrial estate? No, it doesn't. But the reason why we think it's acceptable is that we've just literally put a brand new access in on the Eurocentre industrial estate midway through between blocks Unit 2 and Unit 3. Which you'd so the way that you'd access now is that you'd go from the Eurocentre site through to the recreation centre, walk about 100 yards down the recreation centre, then back onto the railway yard site that we're proposing to build on, and then walk there from the station. So we're not proposing to walk from one site directly onto the other. but I mean it's there or thereabouts.
Got you. Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Thank you. Thanks for that presentation. So I'm one of the other Abbey ward councillors. So I won't add a great deal because Hannah or Councillor Perkin has mentioned most of those, and I think through the various sort of conversations with residents and through various sort of planning discussions that have happened in the past, I think it's sort of looking like a better application towards what it perhaps was before, in the sense for the residents that it concerned. I think some of the residents have said to me they were a bit concerned about security, and I know you were saying about putting hedging and things, and obviously it being a thoroughfare potentially for people as well as just the residents. It's just that whether there's sort of the situation has been considered around kind of how if you've got people late at night, for example, walking through the site, and how that could impact the residents of the malt houses in particular, because obviously their windows sort of look out of there, and whether the hedge over time will be sufficient, or whether there's any sort of short-term mitigation, to make sure that it's sort of a bit more secure than perhaps it could be if it was left open. So really, that's anything I can add to what Councillor Perkin was saying. But thanks for the presentation.
No problem. So I think the point that I would raise kind of to answer that is today, for example, we had a meeting with Kent Police. There's a new lady that's just joined, and Adrian from, where we're talking about the scheme, because I wanted to show them what we're doing and get an opinion on the security aspect before we kind of submit the plans. And I think broadly they're happy with what we're proposing. I think things that they really care about are the kind of lighting that we're using, making sure that the pedestrian access roads are well lit, and ultimately how we design, what kind of materials we use to prevent crime. So what we're going to do as well, we're going to be applying for a Secure by Design award, so basically so we can prove that what we're doing is safe. Is the hedging enough? What I can honestly tell you is that the residents that I've mentioned it to have been satisfied that's enough. That might not be for all of them, to be fair. And if there were any other ideas, we're open to it. But I would say that's kind of where we've got to date.
Thank you. I think, Councillor Martin, very quickly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question, because of something that I've seen happening in that area. Does your proposal allow still for water tankers to hit the side of the railway line, or access to the railway line? Because that's where they seem to fill up steam trains when they use them occasionally around it.
They do, yeah. So as part of when we bought the land from Network Rail, they have a right of access through our site, and we have to give them access to the current gate that's there, which is just basically in the middle of the western end. And they have to have unimpeded access 24/7, and we are looking to fully maintain that throughout. So yes, so they get the access.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we will take that away, gentlemen, and I'm sure have more thoughts on it. But thank you for coming this evening.
No
and we may see you again in the future.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks for your time. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
And now we move on to any public questions. Hopefully not. No. So can we move on to the agenda, which apologies for absence.
Apologies received from councillors Hook and Irwin.
Thank you. Direct declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interest. Councillor Perkin.
I have a non-pecuniary interest in 21501170 full 8 Chapel Street, because I know the owner.
Lovely. Thank you. No others? No. Item 3, to receive and accept as a true record the minutes of the 15th of March. Could I propose we accept those minutes? Are there any comments on them though first?
No.
No? Have we got a seconder? Was it Councillor Williams? Thank you. Could we all vote on that? Thank you. And to receive the planning schedule for the 15th of March. Again, any comments? Councillor Saunders.
I just wanted to comment on the Preston Fields application that we objected to. I feel that what we've got written down here doesn't quite encapsulate the discussion. I mean, I'm not proposing that I haven't got a kind of suggested alternative text, but I'd be, with the agreement of the meeting, I'd be quite happy to have a further discussion with the Deputy Town Clerk about the wording. I think that we've referenced to the position for cyclists and walkers, but I think it was more about under the comment, it was more about the link road that needs to be referenced in, not just the bridleway.
Thank you. Are we happy that that happens? Councillor Saunders and Town Clerk, Deputy Clerk, adjust the wording. I'm happy with that. Is there anyone that would second that? Thank you. Are we all happy with that? Can we just vote on that? That will happen. Thank you.
I didn't see who seconded it.
Forever.
Councillor Martin, sorry.
Thank you.
We just adjust that wording. Thank you. And to consider and make representation. Oh no, the planning schedule. I've done that. Yep. So we're on to this evening. First application is 21501099 TPOA 14 Ospringe Place. Application to Crown reduce 1 acre to height of 24 feet and radial spread of 18 feet. Councillor Williams, thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to speak, obviously. Well, a couple of comments really. One is that in the application there was sort of a suggestion from the applicant about considering removing the tree rather than just pruning it because it was perhaps more cost effective. I don't think we should support that idea personally, because trees are given TPOs for obviously a purpose in terms of it's a tree that needs preserving. So to remove it would be not suitable. I think there's a suggestion of it being pruned by about 50%. That to me seems quite drastic. I would suggest that we propose no objection on the pruning basis, but that we make a comment that we feel that the amount suggested is a bit too much, and perhaps that they receive a bit more suitable advice from the tree officer about the right amount. So I don't think pruning is a problem. I think it's just the case that it could be seen as a bit too radical for the tree. So I propose no objection based on that.
Yes. Any other comments? No, I'm happy to second that proposal. Can we all vote on that? Thank you. Yes, all in favour, thank you. 21501381 TCA 2 Nightingale Road, conservation area notification to sectionally felled ground level cabbage palm tree in rear garden to make way for shed base. Replacement tree will be planted elsewhere in the garden. Councillor Williams, do you have any comments on that?
I think we shouldn't object. I think the fact that we've planted a tree is beneficial. We could make a comment to say that we prefer to see a suitably native tree replanted, but other than that, I think no objection is the correct well, in my opinion, is the correct thing
Way
to
to
do.
go. Thank you. Any comments? I'm happy to second that proposal. Can we all vote on that? Thank you. That's everyone. 21501557 TCA, 3 Stone Street, Conservation Area. Notification ash, reduced lowest southern and eastern limbs from 8 metre to no less than 3 metres measured from the trunk. Holly, reduce in height to 4 metres. Again, Councillor Williams, do you have an opinion on this?
Yeah, again, I don't see any reason to object. It seems seems fine to do. It's in quite a small area, so it kind of seems suitable. So I propose no objection.
Thank you. Any comments? I'm happy to second. Could we all vote on that proposal? Thank you. That's everyone. Thank you. 2050-0015 full land at Abbey Fields, Faversham, Abbey Ward. Outline application for the development of up to 188 dwellings with associated infrastructure, including internal access roads, footpaths, cycleways, parking, open space and landscaping, drainage, utilities and service infrastructure works. All matters reserved. Councillor Perkin, I believe you would like to speak on this.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Obviously, we've seen a similar application in January of last year come to Town Council, which we strongly objected to. I think since then, you know, we've seen the development of the emerging local plan and also of the neighbourhood plan. Now, this site was one of the sites that was brought forward in the SHLA for the emerging local plan. It wasn't in the previous local plan, the Bearing Fruits local plan, and it was brought forward in the emerging local plan but was rejected at the SHLA stage. So I mean, that's 2 points which are quite glaringly obvious that we should probably say no to it. It's not also been brought forward through the neighbourhood plan. There hasn't really been a huge amount of engagement with the community or with the council when there's been quite a lot of opportunity for the landowner to do that. So that seems a shame. I think also one of the really key points is that in the NPPF it states that we should not be developing agricultural land when there is sufficient provision to meet housing requirements in brownfield and urban centre sites. And through the call for sites of neighbourhood plan, we've definitely shown that there's no need for an extra 188 houses to be built on prime agricultural land. And once agricultural land has been built on once, it's lost completely. So it would be quite a large loss of agricultural land, and I don't think that the amount of green space that they've added to the development really offsets the loss of the amount of land that's there. In terms of the natural environment, the neighbourhood plan policies on natural environment states that development should not encroach onto protected landscapes, including having no adverse impacts on setting, amenity, safety or accessibility of protected landscapes. Clapgate Springs, which is just to the east of the proposed settlement, is earmarked at the moment to go through the local plan green space designation. And there's reasonable suggestion that it's home to both water voles and European eels, which are both critically endangered. The existing hedgerow between the proposed development and the footpath to the south is also well established and provides good habitat for birds, small mammals and invertebrates, and the land itself is also quite a good site for the owls use it for feeding. And also I noticed that in the application there's a comment from the Bat Society saying that they need to do a little bit more work around determining what species of bats are there as well. I've written quite a significant document which I forwarded to everyone before, so I won't speak any more about that, but there's a number of other points really. I think what's really worth saying is that in the application it does mention that Swale doesn't have a 5-year land supply, but and I've spoken to Councillor Hook on this as well, and I know that he agrees that there's in this CPRE quite rightly point out that there's been other cases in Norton Ash when they were adopting in the adoption of their current plan, which showed that the absence of a 5-year supply of sites is not overriding for appeal decisions, and it states that in the context of serious shortfall in housing land supply, the relevant policies for the supply of housing are not up to date. Nevertheless, progress being made towards improving the housing land supply position in the borough as part of emerging development plan and the settlement strategy of this warrant moderate weight being attached to the policies as an approach to the location of development in the borough. So essentially, I think what I'm saying there is, and what CPR is saying, is that despite there not being a 5-year land supply, there is sufficient evidence to point to there being other locations for this amount of development. So I propose that we'd strongly object to it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other councillor? Any other comment? Councillor Williams.
So I had a real and a virtual hand up there. I was hogging the screen. I was slow on that one. Firstly, thank you, Councillor Perkin, for the paper. I think it's really useful with some of the extra detail in there. I'm happy to second the proposal, but I just want to point out a couple of points that make me also feel like this, because before, and really it kind of reiterates things that we've said before, and these relate to environmental issues, but as well as issues relating to the social elements that relate to people that live in the local area. So the area was had an ecology report before which highlighted the kind of significant species that could be damaged, and I know since there's been another report to say that this damage could be considered low, but I still think that we need to reiterate the fact that we've got this site is very close to not only a Ramsar site, which is of course an internationally recognised conservation area, but it's also close to SSSI, and the main reason that sites like this are really important, not just for the agricultural element, but the area of the benefit it has to biodiversity is quite important, because if you don't have that buffering zone between residential and significant conservation areas, it can have a significant effect on species and how they have to travel between certain areas of conservation, and I think this is really important to reiterate, and also the fact that obviously this area has been recognised as a local green space, which emphasises the importance of it to both wildlife and the local community. The flood risk is also very important to highlight, because the Environment Agency recently have estimated that sea levels rise to what the predicted level are, which could be anywhere between 1 and 2 meters. Obviously, this area is going to act as quite a significant importance to protecting areas of the town, which obviously could be flooded in the future. So building further houses on there is not really a good idea, but also what you're basically doing is exacerbating the problem rather than creating a climate change adaptation in the proposal. And finally, the lack of consultation with stakeholders. I noticed Southern Water have kind of had an input, which obviously they have land that they own on that area, but the residents of Abbeyfields are going to be significantly impacted, because obviously the only access road is again going to be through the Abbeyfields Road onto Whitstable Road. And then, to my view, there's not really been much change in how they're going to mitigate the volume of traffic onto the Whitstable Road. I understand that it's a very difficult thing to object to specifically on that. However, we've got to consider that it's all very well the developers saying that they hope most people will cycle and walk. Well, realistically, that's not going to be true, because most people will own a car. Even if it is a low emissions car, that's still a volume of traffic that has to use that road, which isn't maintained very well anyway. So on those points, which adds and reiterates what Councillor Perkins says, I agree and would happily second a strong objection.
Thank you. Councillor Saunders, you wish to come in?
Briefly, I agree that we should object to this proposal. I think there's probably an argument about what we should prioritise in our objection, particularly if later on councillors are going to speak when it goes to Swale. So I mean, I think the issues of access are pretty fundamental. There isn't the access there. And I think issues of how it will affect the look of the area and how views will be lost is also quite fundamental as well. I mean, I think the developer's been successful elsewhere, so I think some of the more generalised critiques might not work as well. So I think that would be my point. And I note in the conclusions of what Councillor Perkins put in, though, both of those 2 points are kind of emphasised in, I think, the 5 kind of key points that are in the conclusion. So it would be good if those 5 key points went through in what we say as a committee, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we'd all be in favour of that, unless anyone else has any other comment. So we all need to vote on that. Posed by Councillor Perkins, seconded by Councillor Williams, and the rest of us are in agreement. Thank you. Yes, all of us, thank you. 21500017, Tesco Stores, Crescent Road, an advert application for installation of 3 1250 x 700mm flag signs on wall. Revised details, they've come back to us. Are there any comments on this application? Councillor Williams.
Thank you. I'm slightly confused, if I'm honest, by this application, in the sense of I know it's very clear because it's talking about signs, but and I know that there's been some concerns with residents relating to the impact, and maybe it's just me being a bit dense, but I can't. To me, it looks almost the same. I don't really know. Maybe someone's going to point out the bleeding obvious to me, because I'm not really sure. We obviously supported the application before, because obviously the charging points are good, and the signage was originally it sort of indicated it was going to be above the wall, which we knew, but. I'm not really sure what the major change is, if I'm honest. Maybe I just didn't understand really this application, but so I'll maybe be guided by others in how we vote on this one.
It sounds like to me when I looked at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just. I think it was objected to at Swale, the sign element or something, and then it's come back round, or is it just? I'm not sure. Maybe Councillor Martin might know.
I think the original proposal was for illuminated signs, and I don't see any indication of illumination on this.
Yeah.
So, and I think the size, the height has been reduced from 2.45 meters to 2 meters. Personally, I think we should indicate the fact that we support this proposal, and we think mitigation that they have put in improves it no end. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that proposal? I'm happy to second that. Could we vote on that? Unless there are any other comments? I think, yep, we're all there with that. Thank you. 21500934 for Norman Road. Conversion of loft into habitable space with insertion of rear dormer and roof light, erection of a replacement single-storey rear extension. Councillor Saunders.
Thank you. All of this work appears to be at the back of the house. I can't see there's any particular reason to object to it, so I propose that we don't have any objection.
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you. Can we vote on that? I'm happy with that. Thank you. I think that was all of her. And 21500989, 51 Abbey Street, listed building consent for repairs, internal alterations and insertion of a new rear window and replacement roof light. Again, any comments on this application? Councillor Perkin.
Thank you. Yeah, so reading through the heritage statement, it does point out that lots of it is necessary repair to stop water coming in and various other bits and bobs. And it does look like the owner has gone to quite a lot of effort to look at original materials being used. And I know that they're trying to kind of bring the kitchen back to a more authentic kind of style by removing some of the roofing. Having said that, I do notice that Historic England have said they don't want to pass any comment, but that the applicant should consult a conservation officer. So I'm not sure whether that stops a no objection or not. Really, I'd be interested in what other people say, but I don't think there's anything materially to object to the work that they've proposed. I'm happy to hear from other people on it.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I agree with Councillor Perkin. I would say I'll second the no objection proposal. I think the conservation officer at Swale will look at this and give their considered opinion before it goes to the planning committee. So I would say no objection. Thank you.
No other comments? Could we vote on that? Thank you. Thank you. I think that was everyone. 21501170, 8 Chapel Street, erection of a 2-storey rear extension together with roof alterations to existing cat slide roof.
I'm going to go for this.
You are? Okay. Thank you, Councillor Perkin. Any comments on this one? Councillor Williams.
Thank you. Reading the various documents, it doesn't look like it's going to have a great deal of impact on the conservation area. I can't see any reason to object. Basically, so unless anyone else has got anything that they've noticed, but it looks very sympathetic. So I would propose no objection.
Thank you. Any comments by anyone? No. I'm happy to second. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Councillor Martin.
I was just going to say I'm happy to second. I can't see.
Right. Can we all vote on that then? Thank you. Thank you. Can we call Councillor Perkin back in, someone? Thank you. 21501212 full 5 Queens Road, conversion of existing outbuildings to a habitable space with a new chimney, insertion of a roof light to the front and larger dormer window to the rear. New doors to front and rear. Councillor Saunders.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is quite a sensitive proposal. It won't do any harm to the building, so I can't see any particular reason to object to it. So I'd propose no objection.
Councillor Barker.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Can we all vote on that? Thank you. 21501241, 1 St Mary's Road, Faversham. Erection of a single-storey side extension and first floor extension to existing detached garage to create 1 bedroom flat, including insertion of replacement garage door and part conversion of garage into store and external alterations. Resubmission. Have we got any comments? Councillor Perkin.
Yeah, I think we passed no objection to the original plan that was brought forward, and I don't think it's changed significantly since then. So I'm happy to propose no objection again.
Yeah. And any comments? Councillor Martin.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that. Some of the improvements that
Yeah.
have been made, I actually make it a better plan. Thank you.
It looks good. Thank you. Can we all vote on that? Lovely. Thank you. That was everyone. Now we've got 21501242, Keeper's Cottage, 3 Abbey Road, Faversham. Listed building consent for replacement of existing glazed conservatory roof with a natural slate roof and insertion of new sash window to kitchen flank wall. Any comment? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I actually, I think this is one of those things that actually potentially makes an improvement to the property. It sort of suggests that, well, there's no comments from Historic England to suggest that it would have any detriment to the listed building. And looking at the building, you've kind of got a conservatory type structure that looks a little bit odd compared to the building anyway, and the fact they're making it into a room potentially will make it look a little bit more in keeping. So I think we propose no objection.
Thank you. And Councillor Perkin.
Yeah, I noticed that the Faversham Society have suggested supporting the application because it preserves some of the architectural interest of the building. So I think I'd propose going a little bit further and potentially supporting the application.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
I'm quite prepared to second the motion to support this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we all vote on that? We support. Thank you. 21501312 and 21501313, the White House, All Road, Faversham. Minor external alterations, including installation of 2 roof lights to rear, reinstatement of original form to the first floor window, and replacement of south door to existing store with a window. Internal alterations to form study, ensuite, bathroom, and 3 bedrooms. A resubmission. Are there any comments on this one? Not needed to be sent to Historical England. Yeah. No comments?
Councillor Williams.
Oh, Councillor Williams, sorry, Councillor Williams.
So I don't have any particular comments on it, but more the fact that when I read through it, I'd written no objection because I couldn't see anything obvious to object to. So yeah, that would be what I suggest we do.
Councillor Martin.
Yeah, I'm willing to second the no objection.
Thank you. So could we all vote on that? No objection. Thank you. 21501315, 80 the Knoll, erection of replacement conservatory. No other details. And Councillor Saunders.
I don't think there's any reason to object to this, and I don't think it will impact on anyone else particularly.
No. Thank you. Councillor Martin.
I'm happy to second that, no objection. It merely makes a semicircular style into a flat style. So I'm quite happy to say no objection.
Thank you. Could we all vote on that? Thank you. (21501462) 2 Nightingale Road. Demolition of existing outdoor WC and erection of replacement single-storey rear extension to create shower room. Installation of replacement doors and windows to rear, including a new bifolding door. Any comments on this one? Councillor Perkin.
I was just going to suggest that we hold the rest of these potentially after town council meeting. Is it the last one?
One
We've
more
got
application.
We've still got a couple of other items on the agenda though. We've still got the mast to deal with, the
Yeah.
Portland
yeah,
dump.
we have.
I've emailed the clerk and she says we can go over by 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So 2 Nightingale Road. Has anyone any comments? Councillor Saunders.
Yeah, I think this is a fairly small piece of work. It's not affecting the overall structure of the building, or particularly affecting it. So I'd suggest no objection.
Thank you. And Councillor Martin.
I'm happy to second that proposal.
No other comments. Could we vote on that? Thank you. We're all voting on that one. Okay. No objection. Thank you. And 2150-1511-78 London Road. Demolition of garage and single-storey rear extension. Erection of a single-storey side and rear extension. Have we any comments on this application? Councillor Williams.
Thank you. I think the fact this is a detached or semi-detached house, I can't remember, it's away from neighbours, and in fact it's not adding a great deal more to the property anyway, because they're kind of rebuilding part of it in the same footprint by the looks of it. So I think we should propose no objection.
Thank you. Have we got a seconder or any comments? Councillor Martin.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that proposal.
It is straightforward. No comments. Could we all vote on that? Thank you. That's everyone. Thank you. That concludes item 4. On to item 5 on the agenda, to consider and make representation to the enclosed. We've done number 5. Yeah. Number 6, to consider and respond to Swellborough Council's consultation on amendments to parking on St Catherine's Drive. Has everyone got? I've got that here. Disabled bay, isn't it? I think here. Have we got any comments on? Anyone would like to comment on this?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor.
Catherine's Drive. Councillor Martin.
Yes, I think we should support this. It is purely the addition of a bay location for a disabled parking space, and I find it very difficult to object. And indeed, I always think we should support these wherever we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any comment or a seconder? Councillor Barker.
Second.
Thank you. Could we all vote on that? Thank you. Item 7, to consider the consultation for the proposed shared mobile telecommunications radio equipment at Central Car Park. 3G, I've got that. Councillor Saunders.
Sorry, could I declare a non-pecuniary interest, because this is on Swale Borough land, and I know there is some rental income, and as a cabinet member at Swale, I think I'd want that to be clear. Could I also ask a question, because on the letter it suggests that we're too late to respond. The letter stated the 16th of March, and it says writing within 14 days. Are we still able to?
We told them straight away when we would be next able to discuss it, and they didn't come back either way. So I would presume that they would listen to your comment.
Right, do we have any comments to send back? Anyone else with any? Councillor Williams?
Thank you. So my understanding, because they're talking in this letter about where the original mast was, which was what was Woolworths, multi-state building, and obviously they put this temporary one up. It sort of suggests that they're consulting on where to put this mast where it already is. Or are they consulting on a permanent location? Because it's sort of suggesting that it's going to be that they're basically consulting on the same location by the looks of it, or at least back on that building. And I don't really understand what they're asking us to do.
I think it moves. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought that because they're actually consulting prior to the submission of the application to SBC. So I sort of interpreted it that they are consulting before they submit an application for the permanent structure, because obviously it's already there, and I thought they didn't need permission to put it somewhere.
Councillor Saunders' comment here.
My understanding is that what they're proposing here is a slightly different location to where it is temporarily sited. So it's taking over, I think, 2 different parking bays to the area it takes over at the moment. So it is, but it is about a permanent position for it.
Councillor Williams. Sorry,
it's me again. I'm not purposely being strange this evening. I just want to make sure I kind of understand things. I think it does look like they kind of need it in that vicinity, doesn't it? I mean, obviously they had there was a reason they put it on the building. So I suppose it's trying to find a location in that central area that's not going to impact on parking and other services, which in that area is quite difficult unless they do put it on top of the building again. I don't really personally know where the best place would be to put something like that, because it's quite, I mean, as it stands, it's a huge structure. I really don't know how to comment, if I'm perfectly honest.
No, I wondered. Councillor Barker.
My comments are, I mean, firstly, it doesn't state how long it's going to be there for. And I would really like to get some kind of response and feeling for how long this is going to be there for. I mean, hopefully not in perpetuity, and that this is there for a period of time where they do seek an alternative location. And I thought that when this was put up and we last discussed this, the idea was that this was a very temporary location and they were seeking more suitable sites for a temporary location in town. And so I'm disappointed that the consultation provides no information about the duration of its stay and its plans for seeking a more suitable long-term site. And I think we should make that known.
Thank you. And Councillor Martin.
Thank you, yes. And thank you, Councillor Saunders, for the clarification. This does appear to be an application for a permanent site near the toilet block in the central car park. There are no projected elevations. It would affect a considerable number of listed buildings were it to be permanently put in there. In addition to perhaps the loss of car parking spaces, which this town can ill afford with the expansion plans that are currently in place for the next 20 years or more. And I think we should go back to them and say that is not a suitable location. will affect the vista of too many listed buildings, and they would need to do some, at the very least, some line drawings to prove to us, and some elevation drawings from angles such as the marketplace and the like, to show us what the visual impact would be, because I think that is a key point. The current location, that temporary mast, certainly affects at least 20 listed buildings, and can be seen from some of the marketplace, over the top of 12 marketplace and other buildings in the area. And I think we need to see a lot more from them before we can say we won't object, or even not to strongly object to it when it does come to consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Saunders.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what other councillors have said about the reasons to object to it. I think, and my understanding, unfortunately, is that this doesn't have to go through the standard planning process. It's covered by national legislation. I mean, I don't think officers at Swale wanted to have the temporary structure in the car park initially, and they don't want to have the more permanent structure. But I think that the national legislation allows communications companies to almost choose an appropriate location. A better location would be a roof, but clearly they've, well, one assumes they've failed to find that, and they can't use for whatever reason, the roof on the Woolworths building anymore. So I think the town council would be right to object, but my understanding is it's not, we're not objecting to something that's going to come forward as a planning proposal. This is going to happen, and it's covered by legislation which is beyond Swale's control. Thank you.
They do say prior to submission of an application to the local authority.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on this. It doesn't come under my cabinet area.
Yeah,
my understanding is that it's not a standard situation. So, I mean, I think their application to the local authority may mean their kind of negotiation over using the space in the car park rather than it going through the standard planning process.
Thank you. Councillor Perkin.
Yeah, just very quickly, I do agree with everything everyone said about the reasons for objecting to it. I also think it's just worth mentioning that I've probably never received as many emails of horror as I have about this particular thing. So I think that the public feeling around it is quite heavily negative, and if we're not feeding that back, then we're not doing very well at representing that. So
no, quite. And Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Perhaps we could, in our submission to them, suggest that they contact the Faversham swimming pools, because they've got a very big diving board, and they probably wouldn't actually look so out of place there as it does exactly where it is, which is some 100 metres away. And if they negotiate with them, they might get something more suitable.
Could go behind that. Yeah, and Councillor Saunders.
I think the other thing is, I mean, the response here is to the company. It might well be worth the committee writing to the cabinet member for communities at Swale and saying that if Swale could help find another location for it, the town council would be very much in favour of that. I think that would be quite a reasonable thing to do.
Thank you. I think so. We could take a little bit longer and find a permanent. Given time, we need to look into it. Thank you. Item 8 is now. Do we carry on, Deputy Town Clerk, because we are overrun?
I would say not. The deadline for responding to Fortin is the 14th of May, so we could do that at the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you. We will move that to the next meeting. So that concludes this evening's planning meeting. Thank you, everyone. A quick turnaround. Oh, Councillor Martin. You're on mute.
Sorry, I was just going to second the proposal to defer that to the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, we better all
I'll see you
vote.
all at full town council in a moment.
Yes, 2 seconds. Thank you very much, everyone.